Can ICU do a tracheostomy without consent? When can you request re-intubation? My name is Patrik Hutzel from IntensivCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence, making sure your loved one always gets best care and treatment, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. So today I'm answering a question from one of our clients, Angela, who's asking, can they do a tracheostomy without my permission? Can I ask to re-intubate when the ICU team is planning to extubate and do a tracheostomy for a mother today or tomorrow? So let's read out the full question. Hi, Patrik. Thanks for talking to me and the nurses yesterday. It was super helpful. Can you talk to me with the night nurse tonight? Also, I was hoping you and I could talk to the critical care doctor who's managing my mom's ventilator and CPAP. They typically call me in the afternoon. I was going to ask for a scheduled time so you could join me. Let me know what works for you. I just found out from her nurse that they plan to extubate and do a tracheostomy for my mom today or tomorrow. Can they do a tracheostomy without my permission? Can I ask to re-intubate? Try to talk to the ICU doctor and neurologist before they do anything. Just found out they need my permission to do a tracheostomy. Would they re-intubate so she stays in the ICU? Please give me a call. So, first of all, thank you so much for your question and thank you so much for being a client. And I'm glad our conversation with the nurses was very helpful yesterday. So, your rights regarding tracheostomy consent. Let me be crystal clear. No, the ICU cannot perform a tracheostomy without your informed consent as the healthcare decision maker for your mother. A tracheostomy is an invasive surgical procedure that requires formal consent from either the patient if they have capacity or their authorized healthcare proxy, power of attorney, or next of kin. You've now confirmed they need your permission to do a tracheostomy, which is absolutely correct. This is your decision to make, and you have every right to ask questions, delay the procedure, and fully understand the reasoning before you sign any consent forms. Can you request re-intubation? Yes, you can absolutely request re-intubation if the tracheostomy hasn't been performed yet. Here's what you need to understand. The ICU team is likely considering a tracheostomy because your mother has been intubated for an extended period, typically 10 to 14 days or longer. The usual pathway is extubation, removing the breathing tube through the mouth, trial of non-invasive ventilation like CPAP or BiPAP, which you've already alluded to, reintubation if needed, or proceeding to tracheostomy if long-term ventilation is required. If they're planning to extubate and tracheostomy, they probably mean remove the endotracheal tube, extubate, immediately perform a tracheostomy in the same procedure simultaneously, or extubates, see how she does on BiPAP, CPAP, high-flow nasal prongs, high-flow nasal cannula. And if she can't breathe adequately, they will do a tracheostomy. So, why would they re-intubate to keep her in ICU? This is an important strategic question, Angela. Here's what you need to know. If your mother is re-intubated, a breathing tube back through the mouth, she would likely remain in ICU because endotracheal intubation typically requires ICU-level monitoring and sedation. It's considered a temporary measure only, not suitable for long-term ventilation. Insurance and hospital protocols usually mandate ICU care for intubated patients. With a tracheostomy, however, patients can often be transferred to a step-down ICU or HDU, or go home with proper support through intensivecareathome.com. And I encourage you to check out intensivecareathome.com. The other alternative for tracheostomy and ventilation is ICU long-term, which is not really what you want. So critical questions to ask before signing for a tracheostomy consent. Before you agree to anything, Angela, you need answers to these questions from both the critical care doctor and the neurologist. Why is the tracheostomy being recommended right now? How many days has she been intubated for? What attempts have been made to wean her off the ventilator? Has she failed spontaneous breathing trials? What is the neurological prognosis? What does the neurologist say about her brain injury recovery? Is she showing signs of neurological improvement? What's the expected timeline for recovery? What are the alternatives to a tracheostomy? Can we try extubation to non-invasive ventilation, such as CPAP or BiPAP first? What's the success rate for patients in her condition? If she fails extubation, can we rediscuss the tracheostomy decision? But you've also made an important comment that your mom already seems to be on CPAP. So one of the questions you need to ask is, why can't she be extubated from the CPAP? Because it's the lowest form and the lowest support level on mechanical ventilation with a breathing tube. So she might actually be fairly close to successful extubation, but you haven't asked yet. So next, what happens after the tracheostomy? Where would she be transferred? Where would she be staying? What's the weaning plan from the ventilator and then tracheostomy? What's the long-term care plan? Have they considered sending her home with intensive care at home? What are the risks and benefits, complications of the tracheostomy procedure, benefits of having more time for recovery, impact on her ability to speak and swallow? Next, the importance of having all medical records. Angela, this is absolutely critical. You need to have access to all of your mother's medical records before making this major decision. This includes daily progress notes from ICU doctors, nursing flow sheets showing vital signs and ventilator settings, results of spontaneous breathing trials, CT scans and MRI reports from neurology, consultant notes from specialists, ventilator weaning parameters and settings, arterial blood gases, and general blood results, medications she's on. Leave no stone unturned, because these records will show you the complete picture of why the ICU team is recommending a tracheostomy and whether it's truly medically necessary right now or if there are other options. So I am absolutely available to join your calls with the night nurse at 10 p.m. tonight or with a critical care doctor this afternoon, whatever you need. The consulting calls with myself or the intensivecarehotline.com team alongside the ICU team will help you to ask the right questions you might not know, and me to ask based on 25 years critical care nursing experience. We clarify the medical jargon. Doctors often use complex terminology that needs translation into plain language. We advocate for your mother. We ensure the medical team clearly explains their reasoning and considers all alternatives. We will ask about the possibility for extubation. And if that fails, for tracheostomy, and if that fails, if she can't be weaned off the ventilator or can't be weaned off the tracheostomy, to go home with intensive care at home. We review ventilator settings, understanding the actual data behind the tracheostomy recommendation. We create accountability. Medical teams are more thorough when they know an experienced ICU nurse consultant is involved, and we help you make informed decisions, not emotional, not rushed decisions, but thoughtful choices based on complete information. Again, having someone like myself on these calls fundamentally changes the dynamics. The ICU team needs to know that to thoroughly justify their recommendations, and you have real-time support to understand and question their plan. Once again, talk about long-term options. This is where intensivecareathome.com becomes incredibly important for your family's planning. If your mom needs long-term ventilation and or tracheostomy, you have options beyond ICU and institutional care. Through Intensive Care at Home, we can help you keep your mom out of ICU predictably and permanently with 24/7 ICU nursing care at home with ICU-trained staff for home ventilator management, weaning protocols. And home ventilator management means invasive ventilation with a tracheostomy, or non-invasive ventilation without a tracheostomy, but also tracheostomy care without ventilation if needed. Rehabilitation therapy services in ICU, and keep your mom out of ICU predictably and permanently. This includes end-of-life care if that becomes the only option, allowing your mother to be surrounded by family in a peaceful environment, in a peaceful home environment, rather than in an institutionalized setting. But, hopefully she can go home for quality of life and not for quality of end of life. Most families in intensive care don't realize that intensive care at home with home ventilation is possible and often provides a much better quality of life for the patient and family, more family involvement in daily care, reduced risk of hospital-acquired infections, potential for faster recovery in familiar and holistic home care environments, massive cost savings compared to long-term ICU. Even if the tracheostomy proceeds, it doesn't mean your mom must remain in ICU or facilities indefinitely. Intensive care at home can be arranged at any stage of the recovery. So here's what you need to do right now, Angela. Do not sign a tracheostomy consent until you've spoken to me and with the critical care doctor and the neurologist and on a call with me. Request all medical records immediately. You have the legal rights to request those records. Schedule the conference calls. call me directly and write down all your questions and ask about an extubation trial first before jumping to the tracheostomy, and get the neurological assessment because it is critical for decision making. You are absolutely not difficult by asking questions. Remember that. You are not delaying necessary care by wanting to understand the plan, and you have the right to make informed decision. The ICU team must respect your role as the healthcare decision maker. Time pressure from ICU teams is often about bed management, financial management, staffing management, not what's best for your mom. Because this is your mother and these are your decisions to make. I have worked in critical care nursing for 25 years in 3 different countries, where I worked as a nurse manager for over 5 years in intensive care. And I've been consulting and advocating for families in intensive care since 2013 here at intensivcarehotline.com. And I can very, very, very confidently say that we have saved many lives with our consulting and advocacy because of our insights, and you can verify that on our testimonial section at intensivcarehotline.com, and you can verify it on our intensivcarehotline.com podcast section where we have done client interviews. And because our advice is absolutely life-changing, right? The biggest challenge for families in intensive care is simply that they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to look for. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know their rights, and they don't know how to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care. And that's why we help you to improve your life instantly, making sure you make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence, making sure your loved one gets best care and treatment always. And that's why you can join a growing number of members and clients that we have helped over the years, saving their loved ones' lives. And that's why I do one-on-one consulting and advocacy over the phone, Zoom, WhatsApp, whichever medium works best for you. And I talk to you and your families directly. I handhold you through this once-in-a-lifetime situation that you simply cannot afford to get wrong. And when I talk to families directly, I also talk to doctors and nurses directly, asking all the questions that you haven't even considered asking, but must be asked when you have a loved one critically ill in intensive care. I also represent you in family meetings with intensive care teams. We also do medical record reviews in real time so that you can get a second opinion in real time. We also do medical record reviews after intensive care. So if in case you have unanswered questions, if you need closure, or if you are suspecting medical negligence. We also have a membership for families of critically ill patients in intensive care, and you can become a member if you go to intensivcarehotline.com, if you click on the membership link, or if you go to intensivcaresupport.org directly. In the membership, you have access to me and my team 24 hours a day in a membership area and via email, and we answer all questions intensive care related. In the membership, you also have exclusive access to 21 ebooks and 21 videos that I've personally written and recorded. And all of that will help you to improve your life instantly, make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence, making sure your loved one gets best care and treatment always. And all of that you get at intensivcarehotline.com. Call us on one of the numbers on the top of our website, or simply send us an email to support@intensivcarehotline.com with your questions. And if you like my videos, subscribe to my YouTube channel for regular updates for families in intensive care. Click the like button, click the notification bell, share the video with your friends and families, and comment below what you want to see next, what questions and insights you have from this video. I also do a weekly YouTube live where I answer your questions live on a show, and you will get notification from the YouTube live if you are a subscriber to my YouTube channel, or if you are a subscriber to my intensivcarehotline.com email newsletter at intensivcarehotline.com. Thank you so much for watching. This is Patrik Hutzel from intensivcarehotline.com, and I will talk to you in a few days. Take care.